Alright, hello again to anyone watching these Kaijudo videos. Today, back with another video covering a match played in the Kaijudo Open that I was hosting on the Rangers Dojo Discord group. This match played between my brother Gareth and Andross, who we've had on the channel several times before. And obviously my brother on the left playing Mono Nature Aggro. Pretty standard list, again, very similar to the are very heavily inspired by the championship winning list that most people who play should be familiar with. And obviously with some changes. I mean, 13 cards different than that list, which is pretty significant, but a lot of it is like minor adjustments to like the early drop, basically just making room for a bunch of one drops, a bunch of changing the two drop suite, adding some extra Gigahorn Charger kind of stuff. Mostly the same strategy though, whatever. Not too much to go into there. And then obviously Andross playing the light dark mid-range deck that we've featured a few times already on the channel. Interesting directions to go maybe going forward. I know Andross not insanely happy with the build that he put together, but trying some cards, making good use of Vang. I'm sure he can definitely work out some of the stuff with the list and where he wants to go with it. But I mean, mostly just a pile of good light dark cards. Yeah, and that was pretty much it. I mean, going into the matchup, I think Mono Nature overall is a favorite, but I mean, there's definitely some cards. Vang is pretty good in this matchup. So is Lyra. I mean, the 6-drop's just very key. I'd almost wish wish this deck had the third Lyra. Maybe just drop one of the Agrics and stuff and just play the full 6. Just play a pretty lean mid-range deck, and then because yeah, Lyra or Agrix isn't at his best, not the best supported in this deck in particular. But for the most part, I mean, yeah, these 6-drops are really powerful in the matchup. The discard really powerful, just being able to pick off an evolution, maybe build up a board, and then take advantage of Nature's lack of defense by just being able to turn the corner really quickly, just stabilize with a few blockers and play a couple early creatures that can attack. Gloomhall is really nice because it insulates you really easily from something like Charging Great Claw, which is one of the cards that's part of Nature's most aggressive draws, and you can deny that. And then again, it stays in play as an attacker, which is really nice to have. And then you can just use a discard spell to disrupt, land a 6-drop, and then kill Nature pretty easily in 2 turns. And that can be a decent plan in this matchup. And this kind of deck can execute that relatively well. But Nature, of course, just is kind of a beast. It just generates a ton of advantage just while it's building up a board. And just these evolution creatures are very, very powerful, very sticky, provide a lot of card advantage. Broodmother, Gigahorn Charger, Sun Clan Tortoise, Chief Many Tribes, these all generated advantage. Jarbala Hatchery generates a ton of virtual card advantage, just so much mana that it makes. It's just a pretty ridiculous card. And with only 2 Bone Blades and Mesmerize to really interact with it, I mean, it's a card that can definitely get out of hand in some spots. But, I mean, discard does a pretty decent job of managing a Hatchery at the same time. So, I mean, it's not like there's no play in Andross's deck. He's got a lot of tools to fight this matchup. So we'll just see how the games go, I guess. But yeah, overall, I do feel like Nature is a favorite. There's a lot of thought that could potentially go into who wants to go first or second, depending on hands especially. But it's a lot to go into, and I'm not really sure. I don't really have any cemented thoughts on that at the moment. But I think there's potential for wanting to go second in this matchup. But yeah, it kind of depends on cons. And like I said, don't really have anything concrete to really share. But yeah, I mean, these opening hands, not the best. Like, actually, Garrett's hand is pretty decent because he's got Hatchery, he's got a 1-drop, and that alone sets up for a turn 4 Broodmother play if it goes uninterrupted. On the draw, it's a pretty decent chance that it does get interrupted, but yeah, it charges one of the redundant Boulder Fist. Boulder Fist can be obviously key in late game situations, but sometimes it's too slow. Sometimes it's win more. It kind of falls in weird spots in this matchup. And then obviously Andross, haven't mentioned it yet, but I'm sure everyone watching saw like the triple Storm Spark open. It's not something you really want to see very often. But luckily you won't see it often. But when you do, in this game, it's kind of unfortunate. But Gareth just makes another easy mana decision. opts not to play the Chameleon, which obviously I like. You're just sandbagging this combination. Don't want to play it. You can maybe get greedy and like hope you draw Chief Many Tribes, which would also set up for the Broodmother on turn 4. But yeah, that seems kind of insane to do. But I guess is an option. But yeah, not really much to say there. And Andross whiffing on Mesmerize definitely hurts. Would be a really good card to see on turn 3, one of your crucial cards to see in your opening hand. Unfortunately, all those Stormspark took up the spots of what could have been potentially real cards. But he does have like the makings of a decent curve. Having to charge the Vang to play the Gloom Hollow kind of sucks. I feel like you do want to make a play and get something down. It's kind of tricky though. I can see the hesitancy not to want to do that because Vang does a really good job managing like stuff like Sun Clan and the boards that get out of control with Hatchery, where you see a Hatchery and then a double Sun Clan, and then they have like a bunch of weenies on board, and Vang can do a decent job managing that, which can be relevant for sure. Managing all that extra bait creatures that are out there. But and yeah, Gareth just kind of sticking to the plan here, holding the Boulder Fist. I almost would like. Nah, I think you hold everything. That makes sense. You could think about holding the second 1-drop, but you're going to see so many cards off of these Broodmothers down the line. Okay, yeah, I like charging the Serpents there for sure. So yeah, I think delaying the turn, it makes sense actually. It definitely makes sense to want to delay, speculate, try to draw a different dark mana. I kind of like that because with the other play, if you charge Vang and play Gloom Hollow turn 3, then I mean, you're going to skip your turn 5 most likely anyways. So going 3-4 nothing when you don't really want to attack with the Keeper of Laws and Gloom Hollow anyways, it doesn't really matter. You can do that 4-5 and then play your 6-drop. So I think missing the turn of tempo on turn 3 doesn't really matter because you're going to be missing a turn at some point most likely. I guess you could go 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's like a potential that you're missing out, I guess, if you draw something else, but you have to charge a bunch of cards to play the cards in that curve anyway, so I don't know. It could work out that this is better. But yeah, I guess like you're throwing away the potential for the ability to keep the Vang in hand, so I don't know, it might still be wrong because that 5th turn could be crucial. And yeah, the Vang might not be. But here, Gareth, again, just like going for the play that you kind of set up from your opening hand. Obviously, Artichoke's not the best. Like, he's really whiffing on the evolutions, like Anjak. Anjak especially. I mean, Relkar going to be pretty good as well. Like, just whiffing on those. But, I mean, he's got sandbagging a bunch of advantage. I mean, he's got Broodmother, a second one ready to line up. The Sun Clan gets a bunch of cards. And here, I guess the thought is, do you want Keeper or do you want Lost Patrol? And I guess in this matchup, Lost Patrol is just the better card. They basically they're basically the same card, except Lost Patrol's better. It's better against Boulder Fist. And Beto, it just has more power. And in the face of Broodmother especially, the more power is definitely relevant. Seeing a 1-drop here is pretty nice. And I think you hold it for sure. Especially given that it's a Horn Chameleon. I like just playing the Broodmom. Again, really looking for evolutions. And yeah, this is one of the things. This is why Gigahorn Charger is kind of nice too. Especially over Muktak too. Because like Muktak is also a card I don't like as well. Because it's good when you got your stuff going already. But games like this where you can't find the first evolution, or where your opponent's able to pick off an evolution with a discard spell as well, like Muktak's not really doing anything to find it, and Broodmother should find them, but sometimes it doesn't. So having access to Gigahorn Charger, it almost really like a second copy as well, being able to use those. Obviously, none of the cards that we're playing instead of those. Well, actually, I would consider cutting one of the 3 Boulder Fists for a Gigahorn Charger. And that could be relevant in this position especially. So I guess that's kind of a side point. And yeah, but I mean, yeah, Gareth's just building up a wide board. Vang not looking at its best, but I mean, it can still potentially pick off 2 creatures here, which is decent. But playing up to this Boulder Fist, I mean, that's definitely a threat. And yeah, Vang comes down. I would have to imagine it's just going to pick off, yeah, the hatchery there. But this is kind of awkward. Well, actually, no. I mean, the Lyra's good next turn. Next turn, he can just, like, Andross is set up to just drop the Lyra. And then the next turn, he can just go for game. There's only 1 Artichoke left. Granted, there are 2 Broodmothers, so if Andross does hit the Artichoke, there are 2 Broodmoths to protect it, which could make it hard for Andross to kill. But there's only 1 Artichoke left, so it's pretty likely that it's not, or I don't know, it feels like it would be easy for this to walk. I don't know. I guess it's just taking a while to resolve this clash, I guess. Gareth's probably reading the cards first time playing against Vang. Especially given that it's an Eye of the Storm card. I don't know if Gareth even knew that Eye of the Storm was a thing that existed in the world before this tournament. So that could be the case here. So yeah, lots of text on Vang to read. But yeah, Andross gets the clash, wins, clears 2 creatures. I guess, yeah, if poking there would be kind of crazy and irrelevant. Like, poking there helps to, I guess, try to pull, not really. I guess it, like, position, like, you just would just lose it to an Evo, I guess, so it's kind of whatever, but at the same time, maybe you're kind of happy if you lose the Lost Patrol to an Evo, and then, I don't know, maybe that's not sensical. Because poking, I mean, if it does get through, it just makes it a little more likely. Maybe you kill through an Artichoke if it happens to be there. But I don't even know. I guess with, like, the Vang, you're not as concerned about the Artichoke because you can just, like, clear it with 1 attack anyways. So, yeah, I mean, Gareth just, again, like, just crazy that he hasn't seen, like, anything except the Boulder Fist. Like, he's just seen 2 Boulder Fists and that's it. Just can't find anything. Just keeps going wide. The Vang, just really able to manage that board. But, I mean, Broodmother is, like, a good target for Boulder Fist, but it's not even that great of a target. And this is just good for Andross because now he gets to go for the Vang here is just really, really disgusting. Now, again, there's like a conversation to be had of like, do you even attack it? Because like if you attack it, it's super juicy because you can potentially clear 4 creatures, and you're clearing at least 2. But if you don't attack it, then you can just go for lethal next turn. Whereas, like, this Vang will just die to any evolution. Now, the consideration there is that if you don't make this play in a Boulder Fist, which you probably suspect there's one, I would imagine, it's decent. It's perfectly reasonable for Andross to suspect that there's a Boulder Fist in hand, given that, yeah, the way the game is played. If that comes down, like, you're potentially facing lethal, and at the same time you're losing your Gloom Hollow, which is one of the cards that also makes your clapback lethal. So yeah, Boulder Fist just kind of ruins that, so you might as well just try to clear 4 creatures. But at the same time, then it looks kind of really bad in the face of Boulder Fist anyways. So, yeah, because you just like lose the Vang and the Gloom Hollow. And I guess like it's a small board, so maybe you feel decent about your chances in that spot. I could see that being the case, I guess. But I don't know. I almost like the idea of just like sitting back, no play, just because even if he does crash in with the Boulder Fist, I don't know. Yeah, it is pretty risky. Yeah. Yeah, I guess you just have to make the defensive play. Then again, no. No, I'm crazy. No, never mind, never mind. Yeah, and he hits the clash, and there goes 4 creatures, so it looks pretty decent. It looks like a pretty decent play. So yeah, Gareth's position. I mean, yeah, he could potentially clear 2 creatures here. Oh, and Andross goes for the poke too. Yep. Hmm. Yeah, I guess. Oh, and there's the 3rd artichoke, unfortunately. So now Gareth knows he's playing. I guess he already knew. He should already know that he's playing without it, given that he searched. But yeah, yeah, this is scary for Gareth for sure. But he has the Boulder Fist. Still only seen the 2 evolutions. So he gets to attack, unleash. And I mean, it'd be really nice if Andross had a Terra Pit here. Like, just to get rid of that Boulder Fist. He'd be in such a good spot because then he can potentially just poke with the Lost Patrol. I don't know, poke with the Lyra. The problem is like giving 2 cards at once and you're just, yeah. I mean, this is why nature can be kind of threatening, is because, yeah, Andross didn't have like a great opportunity to attack. Ooh, Gareth finally draws Charger. So he has some options here. Does he have options? Yeah, I mean, Andross just drew a 2nd creature. I mean, that was a great draw to be fair. Like, not even the Terra Pit, like, or the Terra Pit would have been fine, but like drawing the like a 2nd cheap creature that can attack is also really good because I mean he's obviously just threatening lethal nowadays or now. So that was, I mean, a really good draw, and it's very difficult for Gareth to interact. He can obviously, he's got this Sumo Artichoke that he can just play tapped to eat an attack so he doesn't die. Obviously, yeah, you just can't afford, like, you would want a Gigahorn Charger to find the 3rd Boulder Fist to potentially be able to just clear Andross's whole board. But yeah, you can't. Unfortunately, you can't. Don't have the mana for that. And also, just like getting some other evolution and breaking 5, you're just gonna die on the crackback. So I think your only play here really is to just play the Artichoke tapped, which is kind of unfortunate. You probably want to charge the Turnip, I guess, or maybe one of the 1-drops. No, I feel like you maybe play one of the 1-drops. Yeah, you definitely play one of the 1-drops. Yeah, yeah, obviously. Yeah, that seems wrong. Yeah, because hmm, because like Andross, I mean, he would probably clear with this Stalker. Because obviously, if it eats the Boulder Fist, then that trades anyways. I don't know, this is kind of weird. But yeah, if you just like charge the Turnip You want to hit your land drop so that like this Gigahorn Charger can become like an Anjack rather than a Charging Great Claw, which could be relevant. Maybe. I mean, it would be relevant if like you have to kill a Tap Lyra. I don't know. It feels like just hitting a land drop would be important here. Maybe actually you could hold the turnip, I guess, because like Andross is out of Storm Spark, so it could potentially be relevant. But the one drop baits are also relevant. Yeah, I feel like you just charge a turnip here, and then I would probably play Prickleback, because I mean, one of your chances to win is to just, yeah, like if Andross doesn't kill this Artichoke for whatever reason, because he wants to keep, yeah, I don't know, if Andross doesn't kill the Artichoke, like he just draws another creature, plays it, and then like a Lurking Skullcutter or whatever, if he just plays that, then kills the Artichoke with Stalker, still having lethal up for the following turn, like something that could easily happen. And if he makes that play, then like having the Prickleback means like you can just present lethal the next turn, which is like kind of what you want the Artichoke to do, right? Like the purpose of this Artichoke is to buy a turn, and now you're not really setting up for anything. But that Prickleback in play would have been a potential lethal. Obviously, like it could any Shield Blast you just lose anyways, but like that feels like a bit of a mistake there, for sure. Well, I guess blocker kind of ruins that anyway, so whatever. Good draw. So Gareth still needs a Boulder Fist. Like maybe he's just like tunnel visioned on like I need Boulder Fist, like I just need to top deck to win. But like it feels like a mistake to not have played the Prickleback. But this is like an interesting. Now that you drew the blocker, though, I feel like you can just like you can afford to just make that attack, because you can protect it from at least one creature, and then have the lethal the next turn, guaranteed, because now you know all 3 Artichokes are gone. So that makes sense. Like I feel like you just make the attack. Yeah. You make the attack and potentially even poke. I could see that being the case. It's kind of tricky though. But yeah, I could see like just at least do that. Maybe poke if you want to kind of guarantee, because then like a second Evo, just like one gets blocked, the other doesn't, and then you have 4-3. I could see a poke being decent here. Yeah, I don't really hate it either way, I don't think. I don't know, maybe I don't like this way. Just giving your opponent more draws for Boulder Fist. Many tribes. And yeah, now not having kept the Anjack. I mean, now Gareth has to just go for like. Yeah, he gets punished as well for not having that turnip down, because he could have just gone like Anjack this turn, and Anjack attacked the Stalker plus Boulder Fist attack the Stalker. Like you're getting to keep a creature in play for you to potentially top deck Boulder Fist with. And I guess like best case scenario would have been like, oh, no, that's crazy. Yeah, not getting Anjack, because like Anjack can just rebuy, then find Boulder Fist. Yeah, like just not having Anjack here really hurts your chances. Because like with Anjack, obviously you can attack the Underworld Stalker, they block, and then you'll probably have to trade with the Boulder Fist away, I guess. Gigahorn. But then, yeah, you'd have Anjac in play, and then if you top deck a Boulder Fist afterwards, then you're like kind of, you could still potentially steal the game. Just a weird situation. Andross chooses not to block, just takes the hit, which kind of makes sense. And chooses to pass, forgets the Stalker. I don't know. That's weird. That was weird. He just let it die and didn't play it. Charged the Skull Cutter. Okay, there it is. Yeah. Maybe he just forgot. But I think that's actually a misplay. For one, I don't know why you charge the Skull Cutter. Doesn't seem like there's a purpose to do that. So I feel like you should have just ran it out. Maybe he just like kind of assumed like the skull, like the Stalker was already coming into play, like one of those things where you're like in your head you've already done it. I could see that being the case. But I think this is actually a mistake because like again, one of the ways you lose this game is to like top deck Boulder Fist. Like if Gareth just goes completely savage and just peels that card right off the top. And in that case, like I think it would have been better to just leave the Underworld Stalker in your graveyard, like not forget about it, but just leave it there. Like if he had just left it there and played the Skull Cutter from hand, that would have just been better. Like that would have been the best play to make there, I think, because you're presenting lethal either way. The only way you don't have lethal is if Gareth draws Boulder Fist, in which case like now you have nothing because you charge a Skull Cutter for no real reason. So you could have just held it in hand, and better than holding it in hand would have just been to hold your Underworld Stalker in graveyard because Underworld Stalker is better than Lurking Skull Cutter. So yeah, I think that was a mistake. To not at least hold this card. And then I think better than that, again, like I just said, is to hold Stalker. Yeah, Gareth needs a Boulder Fist off the top. And yeah, no, nothing. So just kind of crazy. He drew like no evos this game. And yeah, some of the other mistakes, like not charging that turnip to play this, Prickleback to potentially threaten lethal. That didn't really come back to bite him because, I mean, Andross just top decked the blocker, so it was kind of irrelevant. So he didn't really get punished for that mistake. But he did get, I guess, pretty punished for not charging because of the fact that he wasn't able to go into Anjac. And that Anjac, if it trades with the Stalker, then it finds the second Boulder Fist directly. And if it doesn't trade with so that's like actually a position where Anjac was super relevant. Now, obviously, Andross just changes the order of his blocks and the Boulder Fist goes, but then you keep an Anjac in play, which I guess is effectively the same thing. So, because then he's still just hoping for a top deck of Boulder Fist. So, I don't think Gareth really got punished for his mistakes in this game, but there were maybe a few errors. And then Andross as well. I think really only the one mistake there was just like charging the Skull Cutter, which just puts you in a worse spot if Gareth does hit the top deck. But overall, like, I guess he's not losing too much on average. And yeah, now it's just kind of a formality. They both know the situation where Gareth's all of his Shield Blasts are gone. And there they go, which is kind of weird. He only had 2 Evos, so just like not a Anjac in sight. So kind of a weird game. Gareth had a bunch of card advantage those games. Like he played all his Sun Clans. He played like multiple Brood Moms. He did a bunch of stuff, but just couldn't find the evolutions, which was pretty rough. But that was game 1. Andross took that. Pretty decent game actually. And there, that's funny. 4 Evos in a row, whatever. Interesting. So yeah, we can move on to game 2 here. This is of course being a Terror Pit down there, blank card. And Gareth leads with the Prickleback. So he's going for the aggressive, like, just poke a shield. But yeah, he's got decent stuff. He's got Sun Clan. He's got the Gigahorn Charger to potentially find an evolution. Andross is turn 1 charge. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the redundant Storm Spark's pretty easy. There's Serpents, Agrix. I mean, a lot of those cards you're probably going to charge at some point. Gyarados Broodmother as well. Interesting. I think you could just... I probably would just charge the Pineapple here. Yeah, I like that choice. Just no need to like play too aggressively here. Like all these card advantage pieces, you want to you also want to insulate yourself against a Mesmerize here by just keeping multiple of those 5 drops. And yeah, the Prickleback poke, it comes back to hand anyway, so that's like a bait creature potentially, but also just a way to charge mana. And then yeah, the Prickleback is just about reducing your opponent's life total in a way that doesn't like that lets you keep hitting your land drops, which is actually really, it just makes it a really interesting card because like a Pineapple reduces your opponent's life total, but it can become a life drop. Like Pineapple specifically can become a land drop because it dies and goes to mana, but most other 2 drops, like you put them in play, they stay in play, and then you can't charge them, which actually can suck, right? Because you want to hit your land drops, develop, and make those pushes with your evolution creatures later. So Prickleback lets you hurt your opponent's life total, get them on an even number of shields, which you can pretty easily kill them with your double breakers at that point. But it also is a card that comes back to your hand so you can charge it. So it hits our life total and is a land drop in one card, which is kind of interesting, which not many other cards can really do. So it makes it like a nice tool because like one of the ways you can play the nature deck is to just hit them in the face with those evolutions, and then by putting them on 4 shields, then that's just 2 clean attacks from an evolution creature. And sometimes like, it really is a super big bummer when you're breaking that lone 5th shield with a double breaker and it feels like you just wasted like an attack. So getting that poke in early with like a Prickleback just makes the evolution creature's jobs easier. But here, yeah, I almost like keeping the Gigahorn, like 1/1 of the Broodmother. Broodmother is a +2, which is very appealing, but Gigahorn just being that guaranteed Evo access, I think is pretty valuable. I mean, we saw how the previous game played out where Gareth had double Broodmother in the Sun Clans, and he just never drew the evolutions, and you can avoid that with the certainty from Gigahorn, but at the same time, I mean, Broodmother's Broodmother, and I can understand wanting the +1. Also, it is fair to note that Broodmother being 4,000 power is pretty significant when you're playing against a Vang deck, so that could also definitely be a consideration there. Just, yeah, I mean, maybe not putting too much weight into the weird game that happened previous. And yeah, I mean, Andross just drawing a lot of expensive stuff, not really seeing his early stuff. I mean, he's got the 1 Mesmerize, which he didn't have the previous game, which is nice, but now he sees like just a bunch of pieces of card advantage. It's one of those interesting spots. You could take the Sun Clan, which is just like the what Gareth's going to spend his mana on next turn, and is also a +1 in its own right. But you might be thinking like, well, how sucky would it be if Gareth knows that he has none left in deck, and then you Mesmerize it? That'd be interesting. You could aim for the upside of just like, oh, they have nothing. They only have the 2, which maybe is not a bet you want to make, but especially when there's redundant Broodmothers, but I could still see just wanting to target down those Broodmother powerful plays. But I don't know. The Sun Clan just being a +1, the play that's going to be made next turn, another bait creature that's going to be in the way and potentially an Evo target, like that kind of seems annoying. But yeah, I guess Andross just can't bring himself to make that play, which is fair. I don't know. One of those weird spots. It is kind of tricky when you Mesmerize nature to figure out which card to take, because they usually have a pretty stacked hand. So, let's see what Gareth draws. I mean, I would be looking for like any evolution creature here. Oh, he just wait. I I blanked for a sec. He charges a Sunclan. Yeah, for some reason I was like thinking about what he was drawing because I didn't realize he just drew the replacement Broodmother, which is kind of funny. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that could be a signal that he did have the second or the third Sunclan in Shield Zone. Because otherwise, I feel like I would just run it out there over the Prickleback. I would just charge the Prickleback and play that Sunclan. But yeah, that's a pretty decent indication, and I'd imagine Andross would have to be pumping his fist, knowing that he made that call in the Mesmerize and ended up getting rewarded for it. And here, I mean, I kind of like... Serpents is just an iffy card. I could see getting rid of it and just getting that multi-civ out of the way now. Granted, turn 5 is also... Like, there's no 5-mana cards in Andross's deck, so turn 5 is a pretty safe turn to charge it, so there's maybe not any rush to get the Serpents out this turn in particular. You could wait a little bit longer, but... Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind that. Terrapit has use, Trox can have use, double Vang. I mean, Vang, I guess, works pretty good in concert with each other. And Gareth sees an evolution creature, which is nice. A welcome sight. And I kind of like just charge the Prickleback and just keep the train going. You got multiple Broodmothers here. Ooh, Hatchery's great. Pineapple's whatever, just a cheap creature, but Hatchery is really, really good. Just basically, I mean, it functions as a Prickleback from hand as just like a 1-mana bait creature, but then it also has just a ton of other upside. Agrics, not the best draw, just so much expensive stuff from Andross this game, not a great draw. Not really able to get those like multiple cheap things plus a Mesmerize into a 6-drop. Like, he's kind of missing that one more cheap card. So I don't know. I think again, like, I'd probably just charge the Agrics, yeah, and then yeah, because like Terrapit's almost like a better thing to cap off with. Well, Trox would be probably the play over Terrapit, I guess, but here, I mean, Gareth could obviously just drop the Rollcore this turn and start jamming. Like, just charge Pineapple, play Rollcore, and just send in. Yeah, I mean, he's got 2 bait creatures in hand. This finds him, presumably finds him an evolution, which would be just a great follow-up card. And then he could present lethal next turn pretty cleanly. Like, Andross needs to find a way to deal with this Rollcore, but then he's still... Like, the Broodmother represents like a lethal threat and paired with like the follow-up evolution. So I mean, this is just nature. Just Garrett's got a ton of gas in the tank. He's ahead on board. He's head on life total. Anjak, just the perfect card. Hatchery, just 2 lethal threats now. Potentially, obviously, like, Andross has to find like a Terrapit and shields plus like a blocker next turn, and that's a lot to ask for out of 2 cards. Or 2 shields in 1 top deck. But yeah, I mean, yeah, just really great cards to see off that from Gareth's side. Yeah, just really capitalizing on the lack of plays early. I mean, the Mesmerize wasn't able to hit the Evo. Like, when you, I guess, like, that's maybe Gareth's plan, is just to hide all the evolutions by not drawing them until maybe the specific turn he wants to cast them. So we'll see. Yeah, just a couple. Yeah, that's not really going to do it. Well, No idea what's going on here. Whoops. And Andross kind of going through his last turn. I mean, yeah, he's in a bad way. I mean, the best he can do is like Vang down one of these guys. Probably just kill the hatchery. But then he's facing, yeah, he needs Storm Spark and Shields. And even that is, I mean, it's pretty rich. Like the Anjak's really hard to clear. Ooh, Roll Core too. Follow up one. I mean, I'd probably still just play the Anjak. Just being that sticky card means like if it's answered, you break with it first. This is weird. Yeah, it seems kind of useless. Like I would just charge the Brood. Yeah, I would have just charged the Brood, or not charge anything, probably. Well, maybe you still want to keep Boulder Fist open. I like attacking. Okay, yeah. So I think a bit of these things at the end here are suboptimal. I think I like. You could potentially charge the card to put yourself on Boulder Fist mana next turn if like the Anjak dies. In which case, like I don't mind charging, but if I charge a card, I'd probably charge Broodmother, and then I'd still just go Prickleback Anjak, and then leave Jarbala Hatchery in hand with the Roll Core. That's probably what I would do, with the potential that I just don't even charge the Broodmother, and just hold that in hand. But I don't mind charging it there. And then what I would do is attack with the Anjak first, because like yes, you'd rather get. I guess on one hand, you'd rather get your Anjak, like in general, you'd rather get your Anjak Terra Pitted than your Roll Core because it leaves something behind. But in these kind of spots where you're going for lethal, I think it's actually better to leave the Anjak as the card they can't kill, because if you attack with the Anjak first, they're going to need to, like if they Storm Spark, it's kind of whatever, it's a moot point. But if they have like something like Double Pit, for example, which I guess obviously is like not very likely, but if they do have something like that, then if they pit, they would have to pit Roll Core and Broodmother, and then leave the Anjak in play. And Anjak can actually be difficult to answer, because for example, like let's say Andross has to follow up with a Trox. Like he just goes Trox name Anjak, that leaves a creature in play, and then maybe you can like whatever. Maybe you can Vang it down, I guess, but then you have to whatever. There's weird stuff going on, but basically the idea is Anjak's like harder for your opponent to just clear outright on their turn, because like just Terra Pitting the Anjak. Whereas if you do it, or Terra Pitting the Anjak leaves a creature in play and then they can't out it. I mean, like I said, with Vang, and maybe that's not quite as much the case, but obviously if they have to attack your shields with Fang, then it makes it more likely that you can kill them with the follow-up. But I mean, suboptimal is a bit of a stretch considering there's like almost no way that he doesn't win. But I mean, Gareth kind of, I guess it is kind of suboptimal at the same time. I mean, he like charge the bait, like not having the bait to pair with Roll Core means if like Andross somehow did stabilize with like a few blockers, and I don't know, you just don't even give yourself the follow-up to potentially cast his Roll Core. So yeah, I mean, very hard to imagine something going wrong enough that he loses, but he probably did open the door just that little bit too much for my liking, at least. But yeah, I mean, overall, just Andross played 3 cards that game. Lost Patrol never did anything. And yeah, I mean, maybe it like deterred a Broodmother hit, but I mean, I don't even know if you attack with Broodmother in those spots anyways. And yeah, Mesmerize was decent. But didn't really, I mean, this didn't even accomplish anything anyways. Like it took away a Broodmother that wouldn't have even gotten cast, I guess. Yeah, just weird. And then Vang killed like a hatchery that came out for free off of a Roll Core. So yeah, I mean, Nature just buried an advantage, like just way too much advantage, and then actually found that Evo, put on the pressure. Like, yeah, there was just not much Andross could do that game. And yeah, now we get to go to a game 3. So we'll see how this one wraps up the series. So Andross, I believe, chooses to go first. Charges Agrix. Yeah, I mean, his hands got early plays. He's got Grudge Weaver. He's got Lurking Skullcutter. Lyra, a card I'd really like to hold onto, and very nice mid-game card. I think probably on average better than Vang in this matchup. Just being able to answer Evos, which are like the scariest cards, and then just turn the corner. Because I feel like, I don't know, the games where like the weenie creatures matter and like those wide boards and bait stuff, like I feel like maybe those are less frequent, but maybe that's not the case. And then Gareth setting up again for the kind of like prickleback poke. This time he's got, I mean, a pretty well-rounded hand. He's got Rollcore, he's got Anjak. I feel like he'd really like to see a pineapple with this hand. And yeah, I guess the decision from Andross is what do you want to play? Probably the skull, or probably the Grudge Weaver. But I don't think I like charging the skull. Like I would, like on one hand you are going first, very low on cards. So playing 2/2 drops means you're just going to be not able to hit your land drops that effectively. You're not probably going to be able to. It makes it difficult, and there's kind of like an opportunity cost to the cards you choose to play. Because like if you choose to play this Lurking Skullcutter, then if you want to curve out and hit this Lyra, then you're probably not going to be able to play the Mesmerize or the Spire Puppet that you draw later on, which is one of the problems with this kind of like deck that doesn't really generate card advantage and trying to play this role, especially when it's going first. Because Gareth doesn't have to make attacks, and I think playing the Grudge Weaver also deters Gareth from making any attacks. And I feel like you almost like it's one of those situations where Gareth wants to get your life total down, and then Andross is in a spot where he kind of wants that extra card, so you don't even want to deter the attack. I don't know. It's kind of tricky, but I feel like I would at least hold the Skullcutter as like a potential play to make, because at the very least, even if you don't want to play it early game, once Gareth does start making his pushes, it's really nice to have a bunch of cheap cards in your hand so you can make multiple plays to try to stabilize the board. Like if Gareth makes a push at 5 mana, then on your turn you can untap, play that Skullcutter plus a Mez, play this Skullcutter plus a Gloomhollow or something like that. Having multiple cheap cards that you can put out there, even if you don't want to, again, if you don't want to, maybe you don't want to play them on curve, because the Skullcutter is probably not going to accomplish anything anyways in play those first 3 turns. But having it as a cheap defensive play to make, to help you stabilize once you do start getting extra cards in hand, I think that is kind of relevant. And it's certainly going to do more than I think like just the Agrics and maybe a Terra Pit that are sitting there. So I think that's a consideration at the very least. And yeah, Gareth's side, I mean, just draws a second Brood, charges a second Brood, doesn't poke with the Prickleback anymore, which I like, especially considering, and yeah, that's amazing. Perfect card at that point. Just draws the hatchery. I think charge, I'd probably charge, oh, I don't even know. I would want to say Rollcore, yeah. Because this gives you 2, yeah, that makes sense, right? Because you want to keep the Evo so you can have like Evo, and if you get one of the Evo's Mez, then you still have a backup Evo. But the thing is, like, Broodmother is close to an Evo, and yeah, just card advantage, and this gives you guaranteed plays next turn, because, I mean, it just makes sense, right? Because if you keep Anjak Rollcore and get your Anjak Mezzed, then you're just like passing the next turn, and then you could potentially get your card sniped by a Spire Puppet, and that's just terrible. So this makes sure you have like a powerful play the next turn, because whichever one gets Mez, you can play the other one. So yeah, I think you just have to, you have to make that play. Again, like what we saw the first game, drawing getting flooded on creatures that aren't evolutions, like maybe it's a way it goes downhill, but I don't know. Yeah. I think this is a mistake as well. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe it sounds like I'm dumping on Agrics, but Lyra being an untapped mana means there's no pressure to get it into play and unlock light yet. I would definitely prefer to just hold it longer. Like, if you draw something like Stormspark, it would be so much better to have a Lyra in hand instead. and then you can just charge the Storm Spark to cast the first Lyra, and then having the second Lyra is really, really strong as well. So I would definitely not charge the Lyra here. And yeah, like if it were me, I'd probably be sitting in a position where I have like Skullcutter and Lyra in hand over these two, over the Terra Pit and the Agrix, I guess. And I would probably consider just jamming the Skullcutter that turn. Sitting with 2 Lyras, go up to 5, just charge whatever my 5th land is off the top, and then I have like 2 guys in play. And then I would just aim to go like Lyra. Yeah, that's probably where I'd be at if I was in Andross's seat. Maybe I would hold off the Skullcutter that turn and wait to do it on the 5th turn, because I have to charge anyway, so I might as well see if I draw something better like a Spire Puppet. I'd rather play that than the Skullcutter. Well, but then I wouldn't have the mana for Spire Puppet. If I draw something like Keeper of Laws, I would have to charge it to keep the Lyras. Lost Patrol, I'd have to charge it. I mean, Gloom Hollow. No, Lurking's probably better than... No, maybe not better than Gloom Hollow. Yeah. I mean, it's very likely that I play that. Yeah, like I would have just drawn the Lost Patrol and then played the Skullcutter anyways. And I don't think there's like a huge punish to not playing it the turn before. Well, actually, there kind of is. Did Gareth play Broodmaw instead of Anjak? That's crazy. Guy's a beast. Like, I want to rewind there. Oh, he drew the second Anjak. Oh, that's weird. Okay. That play is interesting. Because you're facing the Grudge Weaver, so you don't want to attack. But I would almost just run it. Like, just drop Anjak number 1 that turn, and then untap and drop Anjak number 2 the following turn, and then you have 2 Anjaks, and you don't have to attack until you play the second one anyways, and then you just jam in. I almost like that more. But, I mean, this is just more card advantage, and you build up your board anyways, and then you get to find more Evos, so it's just fine either way, I guess. Because, yeah, you don't want to just jam Anjak and attack, so you're not getting that much value out of it like the turn it enters compared to Broodmother. But I kind of like just getting 2 Anjaks in play and just beating in with them immediately once you drop the second, and then just... That's a really hard board to answer. But, I mean, it is maybe like a top deck Spire Puppet, gets rid of the Anjak, and then you're looking kind of funny, I guess. Yeah, but if you don't just draw like a second Anjak off the Broodmother, then it looks kind of... I don't know. I'm not sure. I probably would have just jammed Anjak, but... And yeah, now he just gets to find like the crappy Sun Clans, which just insulate the Anjaks from the Grudge Weaver. And yeah, this is looking pretty grim for Andross here. Like, his deck just wasn't able to make many plays. There's a Mez and a Skullcutter. Well, there's like the cheap stuff. But a little slow. Not quite good enough though. Just got a little bit too out of hand. Gareth was just able to play a passive role like that hatchery stayed in play uncontested. Just generates... I mean, it's just so gross. Like, it generates so much advantage. Like, Gareth gets to play with 8 mana, and when you have when you draw all these Broodmothers, and yeah, you have tons of mana and tons of stuff to do with it, like Sun Clan, Broodmom. Like, it's just so gross. And like, Andross is just playing too fair and a little too slow. And like, here's a spot though, like, I don't know, maybe you could pray like this is where you just like drop the first Andro, or drop the first Lyra, tap down this, poke a shield, and then, or maybe not poke a shield, but then Ah, man, I don't even know. I don't even know. Maybe you do poke a shield and then you drop the like the second Lyra the next turn, and but it's just too slow at this point. Yeah, it feels like this deck almost needs like some shield blast creatures to try to potentially like spin things around. It needs a bit more early game, or yeah, probably just like less. Like I think the Serpents aren't very good. The Agrics have just like looked pretty medium in most matchups. Like it feels like it's a card that's like kind of only good if your opponent's playing some like removal kill your stuff kind of deck, in which case then it's actually rebuying these like Lyras and Vangs and stuff, and your Keeper of Laws and that stuff is pretty good as top end. But I think if you're gonna play it like that, it's probably just a 1 to 2 of, because otherwise like you need to build more to directly support Agrics. Because mostly these are just like have played like they're good Gargons, which is not very very good. And yeah, like I would maybe look like a leaner approach. Like maybe you play Blinder Beetle Primes and just like more of a mid-range deck that caps out at like 6, maybe 7 for, or like I was saying, I'd play like maybe one Agrix at the top end, and then maybe you play like, or you go even heavier and you have like one Agrix and like two Andromeda, or two Agrix, two Andromeda, and I don't know. I just don't really like Serpents at all, and in open at least. Like in standard, I'm a fan of Serpents. I played a lot of Serpents, very greedily so, but in open, I'm not very big fan of it. And but yeah, I mean, this is just also disgusting. Like you can't really do much about this kind of draw. You need the early Mez, the early Spire Puppet, and I think you maybe almost need to go second too, and just keep nature on low resources to keep him off of these hands, and hope to draw a discard, or maybe at the very least when you draw your discard, you go second and try to keep them low, and then contain them, leverage that extra card so you can build up a board and then 2-turn them. But yeah, I think you just need a little more early game, a little more relevant early game. Like if that Grudge Weaver, I don't know. Like there's nothing you could really do to win this game if you're Andross. Like I probably would have played it differently, but I don't think it would have changed the outcome at all. And yeah, maybe that Skull Cutter, maybe I don't know. Oh, it doesn't do anything. Maybe like there's an argument that maybe like you could have played the Skull Cutter instead of the Grudge Weaver, and then this Lost Patrol instead of the Grudge Weaver, and then you have like more attackers, and then you could potentially aim for some winning chances. But there's like no way you're beating the hand that Gareth had. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of all irrelevant. But yeah, Gareth makes the attack. Andross looks at his shields and just sees just more nonsense and just loses. So that's it. I mean, yeah. So game one, kind of interesting. Gareth got the not the best draw, to be honest. Like, I mean, he just missed on all his stuff and just kind of died. And then yeah, he just missed on every Evo that wasn't Boulder Fist, and then just kind of lost, and maybe some slight errors. But again, I think a lot of the errors in these matches, potential errors at the very least, just didn't really punish any of the players. I think it was mostly just the quality of draws mattered a lot, and Gareth had good draws games 2 and 3, and not a great draw game 1, and I don't know. It's just kind of an interesting match to watch though. So hopefully everyone watching enjoyed the breakdown as usual. If you do enjoy them usually, but yeah, thanks to everyone for watching. Hopefully bring you guys more videos of this tournament coverage in the future. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next videos. Bye.